Just another evil X waiting to happen.
Believe me, that's gonna make a lot of sense with this show. So, um, salutations, everyone. I'm Niru, and welcome back to more reviews, which, you know, I don't do a lot of here. I've only do reviews to stuff that are worth it or something that I'm into, something that I like, something that hasn't been said before. But, at this point, this is me making a video after just recently watching it, after I recently dropped, binged it for the half the day. It's already the afternoon right now, and I haven't eaten yet. And this is my Scott Pilgrim Takes Off review, which is a spoiler review. If you couldn't read from the from what I did with my intro there, that this is a spoiler heavy thing, and it's because a lot of this show is not what you're gonna expect. So yeah, this is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, which, holy shit, the title makes sense why it's called Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. It is, if you remember the whole Mortal Kombat song iteration they did while promoting this, it's crazy because it makes a lot of sense. Because both fucking stories have the same plot, mainly taking the original idea and then add time travel to it. And that's the story. Hey, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is literally what happens. Scott Pilgrim presumably dies in a fight between him and Matthew Patel. And the timeline gets fucked up, basically, where Scott is, where Scott has disappeared, and Ramona Flowers, it's mainly her story, and it's her trying to figure out what happened to Scott, who took him, and who is behind his kidnapping throughout the entire story. And the entire story is you are trying to think if they're gonna do something different with it. Is there something a deeper plan, a deeper knowledge of it that is probably different? But no, it's the same thing that Mortal Kombat 1 did, which was that, spoilers for Mortal Kombat 1, Shang Tsung's older version of himself is the cause of Liu Kang's timeline getting fucked over, and basically ruining his perfect timeline to hopefully make sure nothing goes wrong, like what happened in his original timeline. Which basically in Mortal Kombat 11 there was a fight between Shang Tsung and Liu Kang, and there was a choice you can make in that game, which is, do you choose Liu Kang's good ending, or do you go with Shang Tsung's bad ending, which is Shang Tsung controlling the timeline? Which, if you haven't noticed, both of those timelines are canon. Both of those endings are canon, and Liu Kang has to face the other Shang Tsung and stop him from destroying his perfect timeline, his better timeline, basically. And here in Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, if you haven't guessed it yet, Scott Pilgrim is the big bad of the TV series. Hence why I chose the scene where Ramona says, "You're just another evil X waiting to happen." Which it's like Brian Lee O'Malley, who is the showrunner of this. It's like they heard that line and they thought about it and think, what if that happened? It's basically the same cliched storyline of like, what if things didn't end happy kind of thing? Like, what if the ending to the story wasn't sweet? It was actually bad. And it actually does show a lot of the problems there, but it shows the problems of the relationship on both sides of both Ramona and Scott. Ramona and like it shows like you would say like, oh, is Scott the problem? Oh, is Ramona the problem? It shows two of them. The whole show is mainly about like both of them in their relationships and like how it's affected because both of them have baggage that hasn't been unpacked. And it shows that one person who couldn't handle fight, like one person who felt like that Ramona's the problem, he's awful, she's awful, and the other one who just ran away because she just needed space and she still cared about him, but she didn't express that because apparently it shows that Ramona has a hard time expressing her emotions, which I did like that this show basically brought in something that most people who are not fans of Scott Pilgrim, who hate the series as a whole, as that Scott was terrible. He dated a 17-year-old, very much a toxic. Both him and Ramona are basically toxic people in a way because they've done a lot of bad shit in their past life and also currently while they were dating. And it showed a lot about them. People like thinking like, yeah, sure, they're made for each other. Fuck them, whatever. And like, I don't like these two. Like, everyone has problems with Scott and Ramona as they are people that are fighting for the wrong things, or like they haven't like, talked out everything about their feelings for each other, which shows in the show of Ramona like not emptying her baggage, which shows in here that this is Ramona like fixing things with the exes. This is basically the opposite of the movie. Instead of like without Scott or without Gideon controlling things in this of the League of Evil Exes, it is mainly the evil exes and their life falling apart. And also finding out things about themselves, finding out new things about them, and also, moving on from Ramona, like mainly. Like they moved on in their own way. And it's like Ramona, like putting it, like all the problems aside and fixing them. Fixing it with Roxy, fixing a lot of stuff with her, Lucas Lee, everyone changes in a more sad but also positive way. Like you see them actually learning about themselves more in the show, and that's all it is. The show is about the evil exes actually learning more about themselves and like them actually, changing their lives for the better. And more than just like, let's kill this one guy because we want Ramona back. And I do love like, hey, what's the problem here? Like, you beat the guy. Does that mean Ramona will go to that guy? No, she doesn't. When Matthew Patel presumably kills Scott, Ramona doesn't go to him. She doesn't like say, nope, Matthew, I'm not with you. Then Matthew gets upset about that, and he's like, well, what was the point of this evil exes thing? We fought for Ramona, and nothing happened. She didn't, like, fall for us. Like, that was the problem. You dealt with it with a fight. You didn't deal with it by talking things out, which that later was the whole thing. If you're saying that if I'm presenting this as this is a show that's boring, it's more like unpacking your baggage. This is a therapy show. This is a more like talking about your feelings, like thinking, oh, it doesn't have the action, it doesn't have the humor, it doesn't have the feel of either the movie or the graphic novels. It kind of actually still does. It is the show, even though I am, if no one knows this, I am a fan of the movie. My all-time favorite movie of all time. My favorite movie of all time is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Like, I can quote that movie constantly. I know the lines back and forth. I even quoted the lines from the first episode because it just felt right to, because you knew the lines backwards and forwards, and it's like, as soon as they said those lines, I was like, yep, I am right where I am when I first watched this movie. And then late after the end of that episode, it was like, what the fuck? Also, Ramona has a cat. Did not know she had a cat. They didn't show a cat in the movie. I don't know if Mary Elizabeth Winstead was actually allergic to cats and that's why they couldn't put a cat in the film, but she has a cat. Shocks me. They don't acknowledge the cat. They don't even talk about the cat. The cat's just there. Like, here's a cat. That's Ramona's cat. We don't know the name. The cat's just there. It's very, it's like, okay, she has a cat. Everything shocked me because I was like trying to think, does this make the movie worse? Does it make the graphic novels worse? It kind of doesn't. It honestly doesn't, because it's like, again, it's like an alternate history kind of thing. It's like you at least have the novels to read back and say, I love the novels. You at least have the movie if you say, I love the movie, if you're not a fan of this. To me, I actually did enjoyed it. I am a fan of like a what if story. I am a huge fan of what if stories a lot. Scott Pilgrim takes off. I am a bit disappointed. It wasn't the graphic novel. Like, it wasn't the like pinpoint accurate scene by scene graphic novel that you come to see as in the from the both movie or novel. And I was kind of disappointed a bit about that because I really want to know more about the graphic novel stuff. But in all honesty, I got a lot of backstory and lore with all the exes that Ramona dated with, like, I think my favorite one was Roxy. Roxy's was like like the saddest one for me. I found it so depressing. Like, this is like clearly a woman that really loved Ramona. And then you see Ramona realizing like she had to unpack baggage and tell Roxy, I'm sorry, I didn't know how to handle the situation. I wish I did it better. And I love that they got together at the end of the third episode and they reconciled, which I actually did enjoy. I actually was glad that they reconciled a lot in the show. I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, the whole show was just Ramona trying to bury the hatchet with all the exes. Like, hey, we had some differences, we have problems, but we're mature now. We can handle it like adults now, which they do. And that was actually pretty sweet that it wasn't just like kill the exes. No, you gotta, which I was like very worried about, but I was like, no, they're not gonna kill the exes. Like, this is not a fucking pinpoint intersection that you can't break. There's no way it's the whole problem of like, let's kill the exes. That's what you gotta do. No, this is like, no, the exes are fine. They don't have no ill will towards Scott or anyone. And the funny thing is, without Scott there to like fight them, it actually makes things better. Like, Knives gets better. Knives doesn't like obsess over the fact that, oh, fuck you, Ramona. You killed Scott. You made him die. No, like, she learns to grow by herself. Like, she learns that she has a music, like she's actually good with musical instruments. She's actually like kind of a savant in a way. Like if she can learn how to play the guitar in 4 hours and the keyboard, and you see her and Steven Stills collabing on music together throughout the entire series. And I was like, oh wow, like Knives finds out more about herself. She finds out like she starts to reflect and realize, yeah, it wasn't good for me to date Scott while he was gone. And then Scott tries to like apologize, which she does accept the apology when he comes back. And my favorite line was like when Scott was like, a 23-year-old dating a 17-year-old is frowned upon in society. I was like, well, at least he said it. And I did like the all the I did like my whole enjoyment was all the exes finding out who they are and finding out they need to, change. Like I feel like that was the whole like message of the story, is the fear of change, the fear of things being different. And that was the whole like point of the story. Like sometimes you have to change in order to be a better you, a better self of you, and learn that the past happened and there were good times, but sometimes you need to change and be better. And that's what the whole show was showing. And it wasn't mainly Scott, because Scott had his, supposed arc of being a better person in the movie and in the graphic novel. But Ramona kind of didn't. She didn't have like a, way to like unpack her baggage, because again, those exes were defeated and they were probably bitter and angry, and she never got to talk to them again. And in that situation, like Ramona, it's all about Ramona. This is mainly Ramona's story and her evolving as a character, of her learning she shouldn't run away from everything and everything. And then she realizes that it is hard for her to express her love for Scott, her emotions as well. And she made sure just for Scott to know that, hey, know that I do care about you, but also remind me that I care, and remind me that why we got together in the first place, which shows that Scott shows that he has to learn to like be there for her, but also, not be clingy, because I feel like Ramona needed space. So maybe Scott was a bit clingy in some places, which I feel for him on that. I do feel for Scott on that, being like, yeah, you were clingy, man. You gotta give someone space sometimes. Which, yeah, I did like that. The animation was great. I think the animation could have been done a little bit better. I think it needed more work and time on it, but from what it had, it was good. I loved it. A lot of it reminded me so much about Panty and Stocking. Bit of Fooly Cooly as well, with how the comedy and the animation and all the basically visual like jokes that they had in the show I liked. I was like thinking, did Gainax make this? Because it felt very like a Gainax anime, which is funny enough, because Fooly Cooly is one of my favorite animes of all time as well. So it's like a match made of heaven. And Scott Pilgrim and Fooly Cooly, like it's the perfect duo for me to have. It is an interesting story. I did like it. It was more. I love that it went in depth with the characters. I did love that it focused them a lot more, and even like symbolism for like Ramona, which I don't know if it's true or not. Like if her real hair color is blonde, I don't know if that's true or not because we see her showering and then it's like kind of like a lighter color, brighter. Um, and you know, you see her like usually she's painting her hair in the more darker colors. You see, like it's not like bright, it's like more like a darker scheme. And then you see her finally dyeing her hair yellow, which is like kind of like a symbolism of like she moved on and she learned to love herself at the end, probably. And then Scott and her are finally, you know, back together in better terms and not what happened in that darker future that had a fucking virtual boy. Like, you have VR? Like meets his older self and he's like, this is the VR room, and then you open the VR room and it's just a fucking virtual boy just there. I thought was hilarious. I was like, oh, what's this super advanced virtual VR room? It's just a virtual boy. Which apparently my favorite like joke, it's like because they try to make it lead to like, oh, are Wallace and Scott together? No. It's like I don't know how to break it to him. I didn't want to say this, Scott, but Wallace is married to the guy who works at Nintendo. He's like, what? That means he gets every game for free. And Wallace is like, that's not true. Oh, God. There's a lot of characters I liked more than I liked in the movie. I mean, I liked those characters in the movie. Like, in the movie, I loved Young Neil. Like, Young Neil had some of the best lines I loved in the movie, where I thought, like, God, he's an idiot, but he's a lovable idiot. And and he is in this more. Young Neil is in this more in the film, in the show, and he has. I feel like both him and Wallace steal the show. Wallace and Young Neil steal the show a lot. The Young Neil and Wallace steal the show like heavily. Their lines are great, and having Johnny Simmons and freaking Kieran Culkin back as the roles, like it's like they never left. It's like they never left the roles at all. Like they felt like they were still on that movie set. It felt like they were still there. It felt like they never left the character. And Kieran Culkin just absolutely kills it. Johnny kills it too as Young Neil. I thought they were great in the series. I can say that there's one kind of like a few flaws in the show I will say is a problem. Usually, you know, these are Hollywood actors, and some of the actors I say aren't great with their voice acting. I'm not saying they're Megan Fox bad like in MK1. No. I say that they do a great job for what they did. I think they did perfect. I did like a lot of the actors returning and coming back for the show, and I thought it was pretty cool to see them back. It was nice to hear them back in those characters and those roles. But the one person that is a big eyesore or a big like I don't know, whatever, is Knives. Knives is noticeably sounding older. The actor who plays her, Ellen Wong, she is noticeably she's not like old. Like she does sound a bit noticeably older. She doesn't sound like the younger, like energetic Knives that she was in the movie. I mean, she was probably in her 20s, I think, when she did that movie. She's like third. I was shocked about this when I had double whiplash because there's a joke in the show where it was like, because Lucas Lee it was like rumored that he was dating Knives, and then it became like huge and controversial news that Lucas Lee is dating a 17-year-old girl, and then Ramona's like 17 years old, and then Lucas Lee's like she's 31 in real life, which I had to look that up, and no, she's 38. She's 38 now. She's pushing 40 now. uh and I was like, Jesus Christ. And yeah, she is noticeably sounding older in the show, but it doesn't mean like it was like really bad. She still sounded like Knives. It's just that if Knives was a bit, sounding older in the voice, like that's kind of like was noticeable for me. I was like, hey, she sounds a bit older. Some of the actors, yeah, but that feel like they haven't left. I could say like Jason Schwartzman still sounds like he's Gideon. I mean, to be fair, I just saw him in Across the Spider-Verse this year, so his voice still hasn't changed at all. Michael Cera, I never got a good voice on him yet because he was barely in the show, so I couldn't like criticize his voice acting that much because he was barely like like he was barely in the show to begin with, since this is a mystery show of like who is it, because they make two references that pertain to like foreshadow what the show was going to be. It foreshadows what the show is going to be, like Scott talking about like Sonic the Hedgehog, and talking about like, did you know that there were two shows back in the 80s, one that was lighthearted and about chili dogs, and another one that was more dark and gloomy, and both of them have the same voice actor in it, which is funny because I did talk about Jaleel White because he has an Urkel special coming in soon. And it's a reference to like Scott being the younger Scott, 23 Scott being light and cheerful, and the older Scott being more dark and brooding. And like that was like the whole like foreshadowing what's going to happen in the show when you get to the last two episodes. And also Ramona talking about like, never grew up with cartoons. I grew up with older shows like reruns of Columbo, which shows that she's a detective it shows you that she's a detective in the show more because she's trying to find out who is the person that is responsible for Scott's disappearance. It's kind of weird that we got two shows that talk about Columbo. One that's paying homage to Columbo, which is Poker Face, and one that references it, which is Scott Pilgrim. I swear, it's like, does anyone know? It's weird how coincidental that 2023 became the year of like coincidental references to older shows, and also making the same story plot line of a fucking like different multiverse timelines. It's weird. It's like, oh, this won't be oversaturated. Here's 2023 where it's nothing but multiversal travel. Like, Jesus Christ. Time travel has fucking decimated this year. Like, Jesus. I wouldn't have a problem with it. It's just that, man, it's just crazy that everyone had the same fucking idea and they were thinking, there's no way no one else is going to do the same thing we're doing. And it's all of a sudden shit. Holy crap. There was, okay, what else that I can say about the show? I mean, I already talked about what, like, everyone's lore getting expanded, their backstory, which I liked. Also, like, the message about changing for the better and expressing your emotions more as well. I guess I said as well. All right. Uh, there. Oh yeah, there is a possibility of something that is something that I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it, and I don't know if it's gonna turn out well. But there is a post credit scene in the show with because apparently Gideon and Matthew Patel team up, and also Gideon is with Julie now, and all three of them are like evil through and through, while the other ones are, no longer evil. But there is like a tease here that there might be a bigger like thing with Gideon and Matthew coming in, uh, probably for like supposedly a second season. Like it's supposedly a second season. Supposedly that they're probably planning to make one. I don't know if the show's gonna, as they say, take off. But Rotten Tomatoes, from what I last checked from the score, it's 100%. But to be fair, that's because not a lot of people have seen it yet. So don't know when that will change. A lot of people haven't watched this yet. It's Friday. People usually work on Friday. I had nothing better to do. I mean, I was going to edit a video and stream. I'm probably still going to stream soon after I'm done recording this video. But there was like, who knows? If a second season happens, I'm curious. Will the actors come back? They probably will if they enjoyed making this. And I am very curious to wonder what would they do next if that's what they're going to do. Because I felt like this was a good alternative story, a take on Scott Pilgrim as a whole, like both movie and graphic novel. And of course the game as well, because I'm a Gucci, if I'm remembering the name right, he did the music for this, which he did the music for the video game as well. And he does make a callback to the theme song of the game, the battle song from it, in the final episode. And I thought that was pretty fucking cool that he did that. A lot of things. The funny thing is, I don't know if it will happen, but we have Scott Pilgrim the game versus the world. Scott Pilgrim the game did get re-released like 2021, 2022. I can't remember. I think it was 2021. It came back, and the funny thing is I'm thinking of right now is God, it would be insane. I don't know if they'll do it, but it'd be crazy if they release fucking DLC that is like DLC that has the storyline of the Netflix series, and instead of like you don't play as Scott, obviously you play as, I think I would say like it should allow you to play different characters as the story goes on, like different characters, like you get to play the different like people from the show, like a DLC that lets you finally play the evil exes, and also Ramona. Like get new outfits for Ramona, obviously, like new hair color, everything, all that, and like show like this is the what if story of Scott Pilgrim, and make DLC content out of that. That would be cool. I don't know if they'll do it, but it would be awesome if they release surprise DLC. Like, hey, did you like Scott Pilgrim Takes Off? Guess what? We got DLC for the game. An old game that we made a long time ago. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if they could do it. I don't know if Universal or, the companies that made that game are okay with it. But if they are, I am looking forward to that. If they do. But if I had to give this show a rating, this is going to be weird. I'm probably going to change my score. I'm probably going to regret it, but Scott Pilgrim takes off with a 9.5 out of 10. I did enjoy this. I loved it. I was like skeptical at first because I was like thinking, oh great, another alternative what if take on a show, and not trying to adapt the graphic novel in general just for the sake of it. And I don't know. Sometimes are bad, but sometimes they hit. And this is a interesting hit. A lot of people are not going to like it. A lot of people are probably going to be like, oh, it's not the graphic novel. Oh, it's not the movie. Oh, it's not that. But for me, I had a good time. It felt like everything I wanted. I mean, it was different. Like, expectations were subverted. But it was everything I still wanted in a Scott Pilgrim series, in a Scott Pilgrim anime. I got what I wanted. The actors coming back and still feeling like the characters that they were when they were in the movie. And they honestly seemed like they had a good time recording them, and also like having fun being back as these characters again. And I did enjoy that. It was a fun trip back to the nostalgia when I first watched that movie in 2010 and obsessing of that movie when I was a teenager. And then a lot of things happened in my life that helped me want to change. And this show, seeing it years later, finally back with something new, with all the OG actors back to, well, except for the Kenny and Nagi twins, because those actors never talked. It was nice to see all of this show bring me back. And I did like it. Am I going to watch the movie like for the 40th or 100th time after watching this show? Yes, I am. And as a bonus for that, I'm going to start replaying the game again. And yeah, I'm going to start replaying the game on my Switch. Hell, maybe buy it again. And if Mia wants to do a Scott Pilgrim multiplayer collab on the PlayStation, who knows? Might happen. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you liked Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, because I did enjoy it. I might have my opinion changed. I don't know. I do love stuff that takes an alternate take, a what if take of like an existing property. I mean, Silent Hill did it. The Paul W.S. Anderson movies did it with Resident Evil. I like those kind of like what if takes, because it's like, you know what? You have the games, just play them, and you have them. I do like that this is an alternate take, and Bradley O'Malley wanted to do something different. Kind of like he Evangelioned. he Evangelioned. Like, I forgot when this show got announced. I don't remember when it got announced. Was it last year? I don't know if it was announced last year. If it was announced last year, I don't know. All I remember was it was announced somewhere around last year, maybe, or it was announced somewhere around this year. And then they had an ad for it on, I think it was August or October. I can't remember when they showed the full trailer of the animation. But when I heard it was like November, I was like, holy shit, this year? Like, I wasn't complaining how long it was going to be, but when it said it was coming out in November, I was like, I'm there. I am there. Day one, baby. I'll be there. Like, first thing in the morning, I'm going to clean up the house, and I'm going to eat breakfast while watching all 8 episodes of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. That sounded sad and pathetic, and I hate that it sounds sad and pathetic, but whatever. uh, anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all back in the next one. Ciao, darlings, and remember, you are loved.
Ow, ow, ow.